Hi, it is Liz from Lohas, Canada. This is another podcast about knitting and sewing and making things. And it's the end of March, so a lot of things obviously have been happening all around the world. And I live in Canada on Vancouver Island, so a lot of things are happening here as well. I've been laid off for 1 week, so I've been at home and doing a whole bunch of different things at home. People have been more laid off or in quarantine for longer periods of time. So I'm just trying to get into the rhythm of things, but I've been having to do my garden. For me, my personality is I just don't sit around, I make projects for myself. So I've been doing quite a bit of projects, a lot of sewing, some knitting. So I don't know about you guys, but for that first couple of weeks I was a bit stress eating, and it wasn't even stress eating, it was actually like hibernation eating, like I was a bear gonna go into possible hibernation. So I started like gaining weight. I don't know if any of you guys started noticing that too. And then once I started realizing that, I tapered off and realized I gotta check my emotions, see where I'm at, because I can't just constantly be reactive. So I needed to be proactive. So if you guys are looking for something to watch, I really recommend the Red Talk tables on Facebook. So it's with Jada Smith, the daughter Willow, and then the grandma. So they bring different people around the red table and have discussions. It's on Facebook. I'm not too sure what other platforms it's on, but they had a really great episode on that about this pandemic that's happening and really what the stages are. You know, some people are in grief and they're checking different things and different emotions and different feelings are coming up. And so that was a really great episode. So Tony Robbins also had a really great Facebook post about what was happening and just really internalizing and focusing on what you can control, and that's what you bring into your daily life. And things are going to keep on happening, and a lot of things are going to be out of your control, but what can you control and what can you focus on? Because really what we focus on and put our energy into is really going to be the outcome for a lot of different things and your quality of life. And with that, stress can be a real trigger for a lot of things. So that's all I'm going to say about those things, and let's just talk about some knitting. So I am wearing my first sweater by Marley Bird, and I have a video about it if you want to see the process. If you've never knitted a sweater, this is probably the easiest sweater. It took me quite a long time and also a lot of wool, but there's a lot of cheaper options than what I did. I just, you know, when you're first doing something, you're just so overwhelmed by everything that you just kind of try to simplify everything, and sometimes it gets a little bit more complicated and you miss a lot of steps. That's what the sweater is. So it fits me pretty nicely. I'm having a little issues with still, I think last month I had this all in pieces, so I didn't show you. I finished this in March, I think March 3rd, and you seam it up together, and it's a really good process to learn how to seam. And I seamed it all together so I could wear it to my knit night with the ladies before all the lockdown stuff. The only thing I'm really worried about is the boat neck, and so because the boat neck, it's done on the front and the seam on the back, so there's no shaping for your neck and your shoulders, so it might sit different on different people. But I originally had it closer up, so it went more like this, and then you'll see in the video if you want to watch it. And then it's too tight on my neck for me, so I let it out, and then I started playing with it, and I sewed all the ends in, and then this was it was further down a bit, so it was dropping off my shoulder. So I put in some ends and put some, you can see here, and then you can sew it more. So I've been wearing this and figuring out how much more I need to sew in. I think also because I've been wearing it, I haven't been hanging it up, but when I've been wearing it, it's also been pulling a bit, so I think that's why this is stretching a bit. So I didn't want to weave in the ends completely right now because I still want to wear it a couple more times. See, like for me right now, this could probably be tightened up a bit. So I think it's a good process. It's a good first learning curve, how to do swatches, how to do all those like really basic things. And I think for me it was just getting over that mind frame of knitting my very first sweater. Such a big piece, and it was a large piece. So I'm not going to downplay that. For me, it did feel like a part-time job while working a full-time job. So, but I do love it, and I really want to make another sweater, so I have a couple other in my queue. And so I bought some, I actually bought some patterns yesterday from Skinderdeer, and she's having a sale on her patterns, and she really like her podcast because she talks about like how the fitting of a sweater or a cardigan and the shaping of it is really critical. So I think doing one of her patterns. So in the sweater video, I did have to order more yarn because I did not calculate it correctly. So while I was waiting for that, I actually started a vest. And I've never knit a vest before either, and I did lots of screw-ups, but I was trying to figure out the construction of it, and it's not finished because I have to crochet it down, but because it keeps on rolling, and it's a textured some sort of number. It's a Japanese pattern, so I don't even know why I chose it, because literally I'm learning like how the Japanese read their patterns, and that's not really a beginner's way. So I do like it. I like this texture. I screwed up on the back and I ended up doing some ribbing type stuff, but that's okay. I thought it was going to be a little bit longer. I did want to make it a little bit longer, but I was worried about how much yarn it took. I'm using Salt Spring Island wool, and so it's a really rustic wool, and the ladies at the knit group said it was DK weight. So once I figured that out, then I was able to search on Ravelry the different patterns that would be a DK weight that would suit this yarn. So you can tell at the back I did screw up on the texturing, but it's not too bad. I also screwed up and made a little mistakes around the armholes for some reason in my head, because I haven't learned and understand it on the lingo. They had like BO, and I was like trying to think like, okay, what does BO mean? And maybe I was like trying to figure out in my head how it was constructing together, and of course it means bind off. So it just took me a couple tries to do that, but I did a little bit of mistakes that you can't really tell. The buttonholes on the one side, and I didn't do that because I didn't understand how exactly to follow the pattern, and I think from the notes on there, I should have actually followed what the size was on it. I'll do a video on it separately, but I think because I could do the button bands separately, but then it might be too much of an overlap. So with the vest, I'm supposed to crochet the edges so they stop from rolling. And with my goals for this year, it is to learn how to crochet. I did one crochet the other week, and it turned into this weird heart-shaped thing because I didn't really understand it. I found a different tutorial, and I think that's really the key, was whatever you're learning, is to choose multiple tutorials if you didn't get it the first time, and really find the person that you can learn from. So for me, that first tutorial I watched, it didn't really make too much sense. And then the second tutorial, maybe because I even did it the first time, I started to understand the construction of it, of how I was supposed to hold it. So with that, I made a little dishcloth. So as you can see, I increased somehow, and also added, somehow this should have been at the bottom because this is the cast on tail, so I don't understand how it got up there. But that's okay. It was the first test run. I started to understand the construction of it and also how to hold my yarn, because I hold it very differently. And so once I probably will do a little bit more of another one, then I'll start doing the edges for the vest, and then it'll be done and I can play with it again. So everything going on, I kind of just want to go on autopilot for a couple things, and that's how I usually do my knitting. That's why I have never made a sweater before or a vest. I've just mainly stuck to socks. So I know how to do socks pretty well now-ish, and it's always a learning curve. And so I did this sock, and it looks super small, but the thing is, it's got super much elastic, and it is, I think, a bamboo. I would have to look at the tag again, but it's a really stretchy elastic, and I did some mistakes on it. This was the one I first started learning how to make socks. A lot of mistakes in it, but I only did one because my sister got me for Christmas a bunch of 50-gram balls of stock yarn, but then they were only 50 grams each, so I had to go back, and then I guess I just put it in my stash and didn't realize it was in there until this last fall when I was cleaning and organizing everything. I found this one sock, and then I found the other yarn that I bought from it. So I decided to cast that on. It does look a lot small, but when I wear it, it stretches out. Maybe you sock knitters can give me some ideas, but sometimes depending on the material, and I find the different types of material depends on how my foot goes into the sock, but someone suggested maybe doing a different heel, but for the most part my socks stay up. I've had one pair that doesn't stay up too much, but I think the wool might be a little bit bigger, and so it just kind of drapes down, and maybe I should have gone down a size in the stitch count and it would have made it a lot more tighter. So it really just depends, I guess, on the wool as well and how stretchy it becomes. This does have nylon in it, and that's why it does look tiny. Looks like a tiny person's feet. But when I put it on, it's the perfect size and it doesn't seem to fall. So for me, that really depends on the wool. So I just started casting that on a couple days ago because I just felt like I needed to knit something. So I've been really trying to be mindful of the things that I buy. So a couple of weeks ago I was at one of the big box stores, and I wasn't even there to buy yarn. I was there to pick up something else, and I saw this color and I thought, you know what, I want to try to make a t-shirt this summer or this spring now since we have more time. So I thought that would be really great. It's called Loops and Thread yarn. It's a mustard color, obviously, and it has 87% cotton and 13% nylon. So I think I'm gonna have a look at different patterns for t-shirts and maybe a tank top. So let's shift over and we're gonna talk about sewing. So I've been sewing quite a bit with my own business that makes eco-friendly products. Everything's kind of on hold of sending those stuff out because I was going to do an Amazon handmade account. Amazon is just sending out usually medical grade equipment, or people are sending it out from their home. So it is taking quite a bit longer for stuff. I'm not set up to do any of that. I don't have any packing supplies for me to ship it, but I'm just going to continue to make inventory is my strategy. So I've also been sewing some COVID-19 fabric items for people, so that's been really interesting to see that progress. So I'm in Canada and it is very different here than compared to the United States, where they've already ran out of medical grade masks or headbands or anything like that. So it's a very different situation of people's opinions on different things. So it just really depends on where the medical system is, and if they've exhausted all options, that is what's happening down there. Up here as well, we are running out of the caps, the plastic caps that they put on their heads. So they're asking people if they can make like it's called scrub caps or skull caps, and so that the nurses can put them on their heads, and sometimes they have buttons on them so they can put the elastic from their mask onto it. So it just really depends. It's a progression of everything. So it seems like everyone has an opinion about the cloth face mask, but I would also like to say that it does play a psychological factor on someone's mental health, and if that makes them feel more secure, and if that is a last resort, then it's better than nothing. And a lot of these places are just doing donation only. I know in the States there's a lot of talk about certain fabric stores or crafting stores are putting together kits that sewers can go there, take home, and bring back. So they're just using their time and their thread, but it's not actually the fabric that they're purchasing, where we're just at a donation stage. And there's a lot of people down there too who are at a donation stage. They have a lot of quilting fabric and they're just using the quilting cotton and using it from their stash. So I just want to thank you, all the sewists, all the people who are coming out and saying, I'm not a sewist, but I can definitely sew. I think it's making a huge difference, and that we're able to come to the forefront. We're sitting at home. We are doing what we can here, but also really trying to help out the community. So with all the developments changing, I think it's sometimes hard because we get sucked into like this vortex of information. For me, I've been really trying to scale that back, and then also just when I'm at the grocery store and I'm chatting with the cashier, obviously trying to keep distance, but also chatting and just saying like, oh, how's your trucking system? You seem to be out of, you know, flour or something. And the lady was like, oh, our trucking isn't as bad as some other grocery stores. They're actually like 2 trucks behind. Or when I go and get soil from the garden store to do self-sufficiency, you know, I chat with them about the seeds and all that, and I can have a look. Or even emails from seed companies. So I'm doing it more on a micro level. So it's obviously good to get information on a macro level, what's happening within the industry, but then also what's happening within your own community, and then the industries within that would affect how you purchase things. So that's what I've been really focusing on, because if I just go down that vortex of like abundance of information of people's opinions, it just doesn't help my soul. So I'm really just trying to focus on that. I pulled out some patterns of things I want to sew. I have pulled out what I want to knit, and I've created actually a written list of things that every day I'm going to do, kind of planning out the next 3 or 4 days, and then I have like a macro one. So I get my patterns usually from the thrift store because they're 25 cents, and I really like their style because everything's coming back around. But this is a McCall's pattern. It's a 5733, and my sizes are all over the place depending on the decade and the manufacturer and what it is. But I really wanted to make, I thought this would be cute to make the top. I don't know if I'd make the skirt because I'm just trying to picture it in other fabric and other designs that I've seen that I don't gravitate to that type of skirt, but it could actually be really cute in a linen type fashion. But I really like the top. I think the puffy sleeves are coming back into style. And what I was really focusing on is, if you have a look, the neckband is the collar is really what I want to try to focus on, because I think it's a really beautiful color when it circles around and has some shaping. So yeah, so that was my first one. The one I've already cut out the pattern for, and I need to cut out the fabric to do the washing of it, is, this is, what is that, McCall's 2742, and it is like a younger pattern, obviously, and it is very, very summery, but I want to do it out of linen. And I was thinking these shapes and designs are perfect for linen because it doesn't have too much of a stretch to them. So I cut out B, which is the red one here, and I just want to start playing with it and seeing. It's a very, very basic pattern, and I haven't done a lot of sewing garments in quite some time. I've done obviously more of accessories and like bags and produce bags and stuff like that, but for actually fitting stuff on, it's from the Mrs. catalog, and of course it's a different size than what I normally do. I have a whole list of other patterns, but I think I'm just gonna choose a couple each and every week and then try to get those done, just depending on the skill level that I need and if I have the material. I'm gonna be trying to use the material that I have, which is predominantly linen. I do have some canvas, and I do have a hemp cotton mix that I can also play with, so that'll be interesting to figure that out. So my other sewing venture has been doing some refashioning. So I pulled out a whole bunch of things out of my closet and I put them all over here. And this week I've been trying to go through them and even just doing one a day if I can, and just seeing what needs to be done, some alterations maybe, or what if I need to redo the whole thing, or what's happening, or if I just need to finally get rid of it or maybe repurpose the material. That is always an option. So with that, this week I've done 2. And I have a third one that I know what I'm going to need to do. I just need to hand base the collar, and it was just a really easy fix. I like the material. It was just that the collar had, I don't know if someone ripped out the stitches, but it kind of looks like that. So I just need to turn it over, give it a good press, and then stitch along the collar. And the other one was just putting, I have this nice blue dress. I'll be doing a video about some refashioning, simple ones. And the blue dress buttons were actually coming off a bit because the material, it was just plastic buttons, and so they were just pulling too much, so the string was coming up. And so I wasn't wearing it because it was just a bit too gaping of a hole with the buttons kind of being unthreaded. So I just tacked down all the buttons again. So that one was a really easy fix. And what was my third one? It was really simple as well. Oh, it was the black fringe. It had fringe at the bottom, and I'm not a fringe girl, so, but I really liked the top. It could go over in the summertime like a bathing suit. It was kind of like this really cool crochet design, really nice black top. And I could throw over, you know, just a tank top, and it would just give it another dimension, but it had all the fringe. And for me, like, it just looked like a lampshade. So I just serged it all, and so you'll be seeing a real refashioning video. So these next ones are a bit harder. So for this one, I haven't done anything to it. What I was thinking when I bought it is, for me, it's a little bit too big here. So, but I was also wearing not the right clothing, I don't think, because usually with a vest you wear it over things. So once I have it over a couple layers, it actually fits perfectly. My only issue with it is when I wear it and I wear it with like jeans, I look like I'm going fishing. And that's not really the look that I was going for, so I don't really know what to do with it. I think maybe if I just wear it with some leggings or something. It really depends how I style it, but that really wasn't my intention of what I was thinking of doing it. And so I'm not too sure exactly what I'm going to be doing. I was thinking I could take it in, but it is fully lined, and so I'd have to rip out all the stitches. And it is a really well made garment. It's more of a vintagey garment, but I'm not exactly 100% sure what I'm doing with it. And I've got a couple other pieces like that too, where like this is like a Hawaiian dress, and I got no idea what to do with it. So, and there's also this dress, which is very, very retro. It's very scratchy to the body, and I really like the material. It has some ruffles at the top, so I'm thinking maybe I'll unpick the ruffles and try to make it a bit more modern. And then there's just ones that I need to stitch across, I think. So, and I also have a beautiful, beautiful beaded jacket, velvet jacket. Look at this beadwork. Right, like the attention to detail is beautiful. Oh, there's actually two things on here. So, this is the jacket. So the attention to detail is beautiful. The embroidery and the the beading is obviously amazing. And this is another shirt that I'm not too sure about either what I'm gonna do. And it's interesting for sure. I might take off the little beads and leave the sequins on, but that's a whole different problem that I don't really know what to do, and it looks kind of funny on because it's a very stiff material. But this, I don't really know what to do. So if you have any suggestions, and it's just gorgeous, but where am I ever going to wear this? I don't know. It is pretty though. And someone did put a lot of time and effort into it. So I don't know. The only other option I could think of is I would have to have a project in mind before I ever did this. But it is to like repurpose it. So it does have seams. And so I could pick out the seams. Like there is a seam here, and so the beads aren't on that seam. So I could lay it out flat and have the velvet, and then repurpose it into something else, because it would be gorgeous, like say on a bag or something, where I could cut this out this whole piece out, lay it flat, and then repurpose it onto a bag, making it a bag, or I could make it as a shirt. Like, it would look very, very different, like if I did that, you know? I don't know. It's still something that it's a process for these harder ones. You know, like the smaller ones is just like, oh, I just need to do a stitch here and there. I just need to actually do it and not just talk about it or just put it in a different place so it's not in my wardrobe so I don't have to see it. But it felt really good to be able to take those things that I did finish and put them actually back in my wardrobe so I can wear them. Because, like, the dress that I was just putting the buttons back on, I love that dress. I used to wear it all the time, but for the last, I think, 2 years, it just kind of sat in my closet, and I would look at it and be like, oh yeah, I need to fix the buttons before I can wear it. So it felt really good to put it back in my closet and be like, I can wear that again when it warms up and I have some place to go or around the house. So the other project that I'm going to be working on this month and following months, because it's going to take some time to test them out, is to do cloth pads. And I know lots of people who make their own cloth pads, or you can buy them at grocery stores even now, which is awesome. So I thought I'd really take this time figuring out the layering, figuring out the absorbable material, try not to do it with as much chemically process in between that helps absorb it, but trying to figure out a method in a way that actually makes it feel comfortable, that the shape is pretty good for your body. I have a couple of cloth pads that I've been using for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, and they're really, really great. I really love them. They do hold a bit more moisture than I like, but I think that depends on the material that's used inside. So it is going to be a little bit of a process to figure it out and then use them and then redo them and figuring out what works, what's the best material, and what's going to feel good for your body. And everyone's going to be kind of different. So it's just going to be a trial and error, and it'll probably take a couple months before I figure it out. But I'm in no hurry to do that, so it's more of a process for me and figuring out what exactly is right rather than just to get something out there. So I want to start that process now, which is exciting because I have the material and I have to do a little bit more research and get all that research together. The other thing that I've been playing with and thinking about is DIY kits. So sewing kits, DIY sewing kits, and also some macrame kits. So I'm going to be focusing that on this month and then this coming month, so April. And really trying to figure out how I can help families who have kids at home who want to get into it. Maybe there's, because we're so short on postage and things are taking forever to come in the mail, that this might be a great option if I could do it locally or drop things off. I'm not exactly sure. It's just going to depend how, you know, we just take things day by day, week by week. So, but really making those kits even in the future, because for me that's such an important thing to get that muscle memory going for kids at small ages. So for me that was a huge thing. I had that muscle memory of sewing. So I was like, oh, I remember how to sew this machine, even though, you know, my dad gave it to me when I was 15. So I know the basic things. I know how to make a project bag because that's your first thing that you learn. So I think using those muscle memory skills, especially now everyone is home, that is super important. So that is something that I encourage you, if you're able to do some crafts with your kids or figure out some DIY projects that maybe something they want to learn. They're still on this zero waste movement or low waste movement, so making, you know, macrame project bags for the market, doing like little mini purses or anything like that. Those are really invaluable skills, and it teaches, well, macrame teaches you all about knots and different types of knots that you can put together to create different things. So even those knot skills are awesome. So I hope you guys are doing well, enjoying some little bit of time off or not time off, depending on what sector you're in. But really doing some self-care. I started taking some adrenal support vitamins, so when I do feel a lot of stress or something is triggering, then I'll take that in the morning time if I'm feeling just a lot of anxiety, and then I have that adrenal support. I think is really important. So for me, adrenal support, I got some echinacea going, I have my limiting my news time, I got my crafts and projects, and then also checking in with friends and family, taking a breath, taking a breather, and giving yourself some time. And if you're working still, then really just trying to focus on de-stressing after all that stuff, because it is really a push. You can really feel it. When I was working out there, I could feel that push of like, we need to do this now, it needs to be get done now, and really just being kind to yourself and being like, it's okay if I, you know, have a relaxing time after work and do absolutely nothing, because that's how I de-stress. So we don't have our usual outlets. Like, I don't have my gym to de-stress, and I don't have like going for a big long hike to de-stress. So we gotta find different outlets and kind of be creative in this time. So it's, your creativity is in full force. I know my like cleaning is in full force too, and sorting and organizing. So, and reading is in full force right now, of all these types of books that I have and I have bought, of what people did before we had plastic, or what we did before we had the internet, and how people communicated and got their knowledge. So it's been fun diving through the stuff that you already have. Hope you guys are doing well and being creative in your own way, or doing absolutely nothing, or doing absolutely everything. Doesn't really matter as long as you know what you're doing for you. I'll chat with you later. Bye.